Well, good evening, everyone. It's another Thursday evening, and we are here. I see y'all coming into the room. That's what we need to do. Come on in, come on in the room. That's right. Come on in. As you're coming in, I need you to like, I need you to share, I need you to subscribe if you're following and watching us on YouTube. We're here for another Thursday night of Let's Talk About It, and it's our second all women's edition. And we are looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have here on tonight. Now, let's bring up all those that we're going to be discussing this topic with. I know you'll see it, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you what the topic is. I know you can see it, but I'm going to tell you. Let's just get through the preliminaries. Let's bring up the panel, the co-host that I have here with me this evening. We have, and I'm always going to start with her because she's my mama. So we're going to bring up my mother. That is Reverend Marcia Johnson. Good evening. Hi, Mommy.
Greetings and salutations.
All right. Greetings. And who do we have next? Let's bring up Camille. She's been here with us. She's no stranger to Sound Gospel Radio. She's another face that's common. Let's talk about it. Miss Camille.
Hello.
Hey, Camille. And we have the firecracker herself. She wasn't able to join us last week, but she is here this week. We have Miss Tanika Firecracker.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. And she was with us last week, and I'm going to keep talking about it because we enjoyed her so much on the session that she was with us before. We had her on as a guest therapist. She's been in the comments. She was on as a main panelist last week, and we're bringing her back again. That is Miss Carlene Graham.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. And we have a new face with us this evening. She finally decided to grace us with her presence, and we are just so indebted. We are so honored that the great Erica Hoskins, my sister-in-law, and that is Nathan's older sister, she is here with us. Let's welcome Erica. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
It's great to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. Your esteemed pleasure and greatness. Now, y'all, we have a special guest with us this evening. She is the pastor of Redeeming Love Christian Fellowship Church. She is the CEO of Peace in the Valley Productions. She's also a gospel recording artist, and she charted number 9 on gospel billboards. She's also a mother. She's a wife. She's a grandmother. She's all the things. And we are so excited to have her here with us. Can you all please help me welcome Overseer Alicia Oatman Gadsden. Welcome.
Bless you.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We're going to get into this conversation. It says, I'm in charge, but I'm a woman. So y'all remember how last week's topic, we were talking about don't let these hills fool you. And we discussed the joys, the pains, the sunshine and the rain of womanhood, and how to navigate some of the stereotypes of us being incompetent or that we're too emotional, or the idea that we don't even belong in certain areas or certain arenas or certain positions, or that our femininity is a weakness, which brings us to today's topic. I'm in charge, but I'm a woman. Women in leadership in all different capacities. Sometimes people get stuck on traditional leadership as in of a company or a business, and we can talk about that too, but how about leadership in the home? How about leadership at school? Leadership, you're a teacher, you're leading that classroom. You're at home, you're a mom, you're leading the family, you're leading the household, in ministry, all the different roles. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Now, y'all, it pains me to say this, but did y'all know that in 2025, there are still millions of people who believe that women don't belong in leadership positions at all?
Absolutely.
And yeah, millions. And on top of that, there are millions who believe that women are innately just not capable of being good, effective leaders. They think all the things I mentioned earlier, we're too emotional, that we're incompetent, that we just innately, like it's something that we can't control, that we're just innately not able to be good leaders. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. We want to talk about women in leadership and how we navigate some of the stereotypes, how we navigate some of the issues, how we rise above some of the things, how we stop negative self-talk. Because there are times where sometimes we can think, if we hear something enough, oh, well, maybe I'm not, or maybe I can't. And even being honest with ourselves in the leadership positions of, yes, I'm a good leader, but we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and being okay with, hey, I may need some assistance in this area. So let's talk about it. All right. So let's start with the first thing. Do we think women should be in leadership positions?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Women
wanna
should be in.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Talk about that positive self-talk, because that mirror looks back at me every morning, and I have to tell it a lot of times that you can do this, no matter what people say, no matter how much people doubt you, and sometimes even the uncertainty that you feel in yourself. That positive self-talk is a game changer, because you have to tell yourself that you can do it before you actually go out and do it.
Mhm.
Right. Right. It matters. As a man thinketh, so is he. There are a lot of things. It's just being honest with yourself, even in the this may not be my strong suit. I may not be the best at this part of leadership, but that doesn't mean I'm not a good leader, or doesn't mean I can't be effective in leadership. Sometimes I feel oftentimes with women, it's so easy to kind of nitpick all the negative things or the things that people deem as negative, and they want to make this like this big old sign, this big old billboard. I'm like, well, there are men in some leadership positions that are not the best at everything, but sometimes that's swept under the rug, or they're given a pass or given an excuse as to why. Now, Tanika, I'm gonna put you on the spot, because when I asked the question, do you think women should be in leadership positions? Your face, and it's okay to disagree. That's the whole purpose of this show. If you don't think so, and not just you, anybody in the comments, if you're watching, if you don't think women should be in leadership positions, please, we want to hear. Put it in the comments. What do you think? Why? Now, Tanika, what was the face?
So I don't think women in leadership should be in every leadership position. I think
Okay,
there are certain roles that are okay, and then there are certain roles I don't agree that a woman should be in.
okay, why? Come on, let's carry on.
It's my upbringing, and then just also looking at. I'm sorry, did I cut somebody off?
Mm-mm.
No.
I'm sorry. Okay, so it's my upbringing, and then of course it's the church part. So I go to a church where we don't have when it comes to women preachers, we have women.
Uh, she was saying in her church, since I do know some of the history, the church that Tanika attends, they don't have women in any leadership positions. They're not over anything. Like the women, they're allowed to sing, they're allowed to do certain things, but from Tanika's upbringing, there are no women in leadership positions. When she's able to come back, I kind of want her to expound on why, or the reasonings behind why those things are. But let's keep it going. We believe women should be in leadership positions. Carlene, you were going to say something?
No, I was just saying I was intrigued by what her feelings were about why shouldn't women be in leadership roles. And I know there's that traditional aspect of it, but I was just, in tune, because I wanted to see how she felt about that. But as far as women in leadership, there are a lot of people who feel that, the emotions make us irrational sometimes. So we're not able to make logic decisions because we're based in all emotions. But that's not true. I feel like women, sometimes that passion and that emotion works for us more than it works against us.
Yes.
If you think about it, if I may chime in here, if you think about it, that's twofold, right? So if you think about a woman in leadership, when Mary had Jesus, she was in a leadership position because who else could do it?
Mhm.
Okay, she was chosen to do that, right? So when you talk about in the natural, yeah, I do believe that a woman is capable. We're capable to do whatever we set our minds to do. Now, we may not have the physical strength to do certain things, but that does not
Right.
mean that we're not going to give it that good effort to do it.
Right.
So, you know, I feel like sometimes us as women, according to a man's standard,
Mhm.
we're not capable. But if you really think about it, if you are a good woman behind your man, he's gonna come to you for advice. Now, and when he goes to give that, tell what
Mhm.
his thoughts are when it's coming from another man, may have asked a question. He's gonna ask his wife, or he's gonna ask his girl, he's gonna ask his woman, but he's not gonna tell that other man that where he got that information from.
Mhm.
So, in essence, we're still leading.
Right. I think even with that, sometimes for some women that can be the issue, because some
Mhm.
women want the credit for, oh, that was my thought, that was my idea, that was my this. And
Yeah,
sometimes there's certain moments and times where that may be necessary. Than other times I'm like, if it got the job done, then who
Right.
cares who it came from, where it came from? If it got the end result we were trying to get to, then why does it matter?
exactly.
um Tanika, we're gonna come back to you because some people had some questions, but just before we come back, I want to acknowledge some of our audience. I have my cousin Shadra Reed here. Hello, ladies. Thank you for joining us. We have Pastor Hamid Washington and we have Miss Peggy Harrison. We have a comment here that I'm going to get to because it's going to help us kind of get to Tanika's point. But while you're watching and while you're listening to this conversation, please feel free to join us. I know I said we were only on YouTube. We're not. Where you can watch us on Facebook. Some of us are some are listening to us on the actual radio station, soundgospelradio.com. In the comments, let us know where you're watching and listening from. If you're listening on the radio station, you can send us an email, info@soundgospelradio.com. Let us know if you're enjoying the show. Let us know your comments, your thoughts. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, please let us know where you're from. Oftentimes we don't know where all of you are from, and we do want to keep up with that. Let me see here. So let's get to this comment. Miss Gail Neely said, women aren't allowed to have authority over a man is biblical. Yet there's the gray lines of Deborah, the judge over Judah, and Anna, the prophet in the temple. So how do we define these roles and still have the man as head? So, Tanika, I'm assuming in your church, it's the biblical reason of why women aren't in leadership positions,
Correct.
correct?
Just a hierarchy that's given. The head of the woman is the man. The head of the man is Christ. The head of Christ is God. And so we do not, I use the word celebrate or endorse women in ministry when it comes to preaching. Now, teaching other women, absolutely, because the Bible gives us directions. Let the older women teach the younger women. At the same time, I don't get into debates with women that are in those leadership roles. That
Mhm.
to me, that's not a place for me to um, get into a debate or argue. I don't argue the scriptures. I don't argue my beliefs. And so I can very well have a conversation with a woman preacher and be absolutely fine. I'm not going to tell her that, the word that she has is is not a word. I don't believe that. And so I do think there are certain positions that women just are not supposed to be in. I know there are multiple beliefs, especially even when it comes to politics in today's society. Religion and politics are probably one of the two topics I try to stay away from, um, just because of the dynamics of both of them. But I just feel like there are certain positions that women are supposed to hold. And I know that a lot of the women that I've met that are in pastor roles, a lot of them just from conversation, they got those roles because a male pastor died and the affairs weren't in order. So it wasn't necessarily that they felt called to the position, but they felt in order to keep the church going, they stepped into the position. So I know that that's a way that women get in those roles. And for others, it's a calling for them. It's a calling or whatever it is. The Lord sent a bird, sent a message, gave them a dream, whatever it is. That's for me. That's between them and the Lord. So
Yes. And as we continue this conversation, please, please know here at Sound Gospel Radio, we can agree to disagree. We're not knocking or upset with anyone's thoughts, opinions. We're not trying to be offensive. We want everyone to share what they think, how they feel, and we're fine. There's no contention or anything of that nature. With that being said, Tanika, so to Miss Gail Neely, who is one of our executive partners, how do we define these roles and still have man as head? And I guess she's talking in the sense of if biblically women aren't supposed to be in leadership positions, but we do have some examples of times where women were in leadership positions, how do we define it? How do we navigate that where they're still the head, but we just happen to be in a leadership position over something? How do we navigate that?
And that's a tough conversation because it's you can
And that's
say
not
that
just
it's
to Tanika. Sorry not to cut
right,
you off. Anybody can answer, but go ahead, Tanika. That's not just to her.
right. We say it's no gray area, but in sense there is a gray area. So some churches may not have women preachers, but they may be okay with a woman directress over the choir or a woman musical director. Um, so it's tough. I would say it's a gray area. I have to go by my own convictions and what I believe the scriptures talk about. If the Lord gives me a different revelation after 40 years, then I'll go for it. As far as a woman in a pastor role or something like that. But I can't answer Ms. Gale's question. I'm gonna be very honest. I can't answer. I cannot answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just wanted to chime in here because I'm sitting here thinking there's times when leadership doesn't always mean the head of.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the traditional home, back when women weren't working and they were taking care of the house, those women were the leaders of that household. They made that household run smoothly. So to me, there's some instances where that doesn't necessarily equate to I'm the top person, even though I'm a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And Jaleesa, you kind of went into that a little bit when we started because you can have leadership roles in many spaces, right?
Right. Yeah. To that point, the same way with household, with you can be, if we're going to talk ministry, it's like Tanika was saying, leadership doesn't necessarily mean, head pastor, senior pastor. And if you are, I have no issues with it. But it can be a lot of things. It can even be if you're a teacher, anything that you're kind of responsible for at a moment or a time. There's been plenty of times where you could be the head chairperson of Women's Day. You're the head of Women's Day for that event, and you're the go-to person. You're the person who people are referring to and asking questions to. You're the one that's kind of helping set up and facilitate things. So leadership is not just the head honcho. It could just be whatever you're helping to facilitate in a moment. Even in the home, while the man is head of the household, but a lot of times the women, we're the ones who are managing a lot of the affairs and a lot of things of the household. We're managing and we're helping lead the children. We're helping in a lot of those areas. I know there's a saying all the time, while the man is the head, the woman is the neck. We're the ones navigating and controlling kind of how that's leadership. That's a form of, if we're directing and controlling and navigating how things are going to go and which direction we kind of want things to go to and go in, then that's leadership. I would say, even as far as the man being the head, there's still a way to do it and not make the man feel like he's not the head, or not to be emasculating, or because in my house, there's things where we know our strengths and our weaknesses. There are things that I may be better at than my husband, and the same way there are things he's better at than I am. But just because he may let me take lead or take charge on something doesn't make him not the head of the household, doesn't make him not the head. I think a good leader knows their areas of strength and areas of weakness and know how to delegate and ask for help of, hey, you're better at this than me. Can you do this? Or can you help me? Can you show me how to do this?
Right.
So,
And I agree. I think just as Erica was saying, there's a difference between leadership and head. And so if the question would be, do I believe that a woman is supposed to be head? Then of course it would be absolutely not. But even with leadership positions, I still believe that there are some positions or some roles that it may not be best for a woman to be in. Now, I do know that some households do not have a man. So in that instance, the woman has no choice but to take care of her household, especially if she has children. But I think there is a way that a woman can be in a leadership role and still honor the man as head. And so we should not make any man feel as if we shouldn't make any man I think feel less than. And by all means, if it requires a woman to um even act as if she's masculine, then I think she stepped outside of her role. No, there is nothing that we should have to do where we have to sound like or look like a man in order to get the point across. And so that's a lot of times that's what I've seen. I've seen women who have either been put in positions or have placed themselves in positions and they almost feel like they have to roar like a lion. It's like, no, you can still be your feminine self. You can still have the biblical woman character or feminine characteristics that the Bible speaks of, and still get your point across. And so I think their society has made a very thin line
I
between that.
wanted
I think some women take it and just kind of go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to that too about the aggressiveness part. You can be respected without being aggressive. I feel like strength and compassion can coexist together. But I feel like sometimes women in leadership roles, they feel like they have to show the masculinity to kind of keep up with the role because of the criticism, because of the doubtfulness of women being in leadership. They feel like they have to match energy. But I always say we don't have to match energy. We just have to know our craft. We have to know our skill. We have to be educated, and we have to, continuously not meet an expectation, but we have to provide a strong sense that we know what we're doing. And that doesn't take aggressiveness. It really takes intellectual ability to really own the position and do it. I'm in a school where I'm not the administrator, I'm not the principal, but I have a lead role as a social worker. I'm the social worker of the child study team. So I'm over a lot of the daily things that special education and students with disabilities are in need of support. So in those positions, I have to be strong, but I also have to have compassion. And I believe they can coexist, and I don't have to be aggressive to do it.
I think
Yeah.
sometimes, in some cases, women feel like they have to prove themselves,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because being in that position or being, in that role, they have to prove themselves to people, not just a man, but prove themselves to other women, because sometimes they may deal with a little bit of low self-esteem. So, that urge to, well, I gotta, take that route, when in essence, when you have confidence in yourself, you don't have to take that route.
Right.
But to the other young lady's point of, having that leadership role in the church, me myself, my late husband passed away, and I did not assume the role because he passed away. The mandate was on my life, is on my life. And I was the co-pastor, and not because I was his wife, but because the call that is on my life. So I'm carrying out, I should say, the mandate that God has placed in my life. And on the natural side, if it were left up to me at that moment, because I was emotional, because I had just lost my husband, at that moment, on the natural side, would I have said, okay, I'm going to step up? Absolutely not. But because of the call that's on my life, God gave me the strength, and is still giving me the strength now. And being the senior pastor, being the overseer of not just one church, but I have a couple of churches, okay, and being the overseer of that, and stepping into that, there's men in my church that are in leadership position, but there's a difference in the mandate for that leadership position. So yes, I'm a woman. I am in charge. I am the senior pastor, but I'm still a woman. I am still a wife, and I still lead in whatever capacity, be it, at my job, at the church. But when I am home, I am a wife to my husband. My now husband, thank God for him. He is not a preacher, pastor, none of that. He is my husband. And in our home, he is the head of my home. I respect him as such. Even when we're in service, I still respect him as such. But I am a woman, yeah, and I'm in charge.
So after the transition of your late husband, and of course going through the process and the transition and the emotions and all that comes along with that, how was that transition? Was it easy for the members since you were already co-pastor, or was it not? How was that?
No, it was not easy. Absolutely not. Because the reason that it wasn't easy was because of the loss. Let me say that. Because of the loss, it was not easy for our members. But at the same time, the transition from me becoming the senior pastor, if you will, that was not hard, but it wasn't easy, because people were we're human. So people still felt what they felt. One thing, and I will share this, and I've shared this before. One thing that my late husband did before he died, he made me pastor. He acknowledged to the church, he addressed the church and told them, I am now their pastor. So he did that prior to him transitioning. So because he did that, it was easier for some. But because, again, we're human, they had been their pastor for so long, it was a transition for them as well. So yeah, but now fast forward, we're okay.
Okay.
We're okay. Yep.
Good. So what are some of the things that you did to kind of help with the transition? Was there anything you did to make them more comfortable, or things that you're still doing as you all are growing into this?
Well, one thing that I will say that I did is from the very outset, I am not him. I am not my late husband. I am not doing exactly how he did it. I'm going to carry out the mandate. I'm going to carry out the vision. I'm going to carry out the mission. But along the way, when you see things change, I am not him. Yeah. So that establishment right there, I had to establish that from the very outset. And then as time went on, because, we as people, we don't like to adjust to change. It's kind of hard to adjust to change. So, but because I did that from the beginning, there were some that accepted and there were some that did not accept it. But I still moved forward with what needed to be done.
Right. And I think that's always a good starting point, especially for women in ministry, because it was already mentioned, sometimes we feel the need we have to prove. But I think sometimes too is not comparing ourselves to who we admire, not comparing us to who was in the position before, not comparing in general. Sometimes we tend to compare, oh, well, they do this, or they were like this, or they like that, or they seem to respond to this better. If we just are us, it makes everything a whole lot easier. If we're just showing up as our authentic self, we even mentioned that last week. It's being who you are. People can tell and sniff out fake and phony. If they don't notice it at first, they will start to smell it after a while. So if we're just ourselves and not comparing, and hey, this is how I am, this is how I'm going to do it. Either y'all going to roll with me or you not, but this is what it is.
And I like what she said about having the confidence to do that, because a lot of times we're in those roles and the confidence is not there. So like you said, being authentic in ourselves and having a confidence to carry out what we want to carry out, and being who we are, that's important too. Because I know sometimes confidence, it could cause you to be, I guess, a little nervous or scared to kind of be in those roles without imitating something else that you've seen.
Right.
And also, if God is calling you to it, He'll equip you with the right
Amen.
things to say, to do, how to move, how to communicate. Because some people in leadership, you can't talk to one person one way and the other person another, because everyone learns differently, everyone receives information differently.
Yeah.
But it's really about having not just having the confidence, but also just believing that if the Lord is leading me to this and guiding me in this, and He's going to equip me for the journey.
Yes.
And you know, I want to say this, if I can, even though I am the senior pastor, and even though I'm the overseer, that I will not and have not, will not downplay my leaders.
Mm-hmm.
They were leaders
Mm-hmm.
when my late husband was alive, and they're still leaders today. I will not diminish that. I will not. They preach, they pray, they do Bible studies, all of that. I'm not going to. I would never, downplay that, because sometimes a leader, and I'll say this, sometimes a leader wants to be not just in charge but in control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and when you have to be able to, especially as a woman, you have to be able to make sure that you are leading and not controlling, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother
That is
day. But I just wanted to throw that out
Yeah.
there, that because we are in leadership positions, that does not mean that we have to control everything,
Mm-hmm.
because we got to be able to have a teachable spirit, right?
Right.
So there's some people that I'll speak from my church, right? I have some awesome leaders. I have awesome pastors under me. And guess what? I take their opinions. I take their ideas. I don't have to be the one to decide everything, because the Bible speaks, in the multitude of counsel there's safety. So
Mhm.
so therefore I'm going to take their thoughts and ideas and take them into consideration. I don't have to control everything, because I'm not the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I'm just not going to do that, because it takes a team. It
Yes.
takes teamwork. It takes team effort to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and a good leader knows the strengths of their team, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. We have y'all the comments, but this must be a deep conversation. They must be listening, because y'all is mighty quiet in the studio audience. Come on, y'all. Where's the comments? Where y'all commenting from? I do see a few of y'all. Tiffany, it's so good to see you again. She's tuning in from Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you. And then we have Neil, know your craft. I think that was back to what Carlene was talking about earlier. And then we have Kayshawn Ford all the way from the Wildwood. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are talking about I'm in charge, but I'm a woman, dealing with women in leadership positions. We have some that believe that women. Oh, my apologies. Thank you, production. Founder said, I believe the men don't mind being under her leadership because she respects the men that she lead, which is so true, because there's oftentimes women can be a little disrespectful or emasculating. And sometimes I don't think they necessarily realize that's what they're doing. But the tone, the approach, the words that we're using, nobody wants to be talked down to or feel lesser than. So it does make it a bit easier for a man to sit under a woman when we're not being demeaning and emasculating. There was a study that I looked into this just because I was curious about women in leadership positions and how people viewed things. And of course, there have been many studies. Now, had this study been done back in the 1940s, 50s, numbers would have been completely different. But a lot of this information has come from within the past 3 years. And there's been decades of psychological research that confirm when women are empowered to take on leadership positions, the effects can be huge for everyone. According to the studies, they find that female leaders demonstrate more transformative leadership styles. They find that they epitomize what's good in the organization, and they help to inspire goals and move and promote the mission. They've also found that women also foster more team collaboration. A lot of times they feel women are more fair. They feel women are more honest, which I found interesting because, of course, years ago, and some of the stereotype is still there. We started the show with talking about how millions of people still feel that women shouldn't be in leadership positions. But according to a lot of the studies, a lot of the research over years, that has changed a lot. So where it's millions now, it was billions before. So how do we feel about that women in leadership positions, the thoughts, the study that women being in leadership positions, it brings a different flavor, brings a different flair, that they find us to be a bit more honest, a bit more fair, that we know how to foster collaboration a little better. Any thoughts, opinions?
I definitely agree with that. The current company that I work for, we have a woman as a CEO, and it is vastly different from any company that I've ever worked in before. It is very much so human centered. And I feel like I can go and approach any of the top executives with any questions, including my CEO. Actually, I just had a conversation with her the other day, and I was telling her how the environment is very nurturing. And I was telling her that I thank her for being approachable. And she was like, "Oh my goodness, Erica, if I'm ever not approachable," and she was like, "That's a nightmare." Like, and I could see it even when I, from day one, coming into the company, that the environment is just different. It's very collaborative, and definitely not siloed like in other companies that I've been in. So just with that, I can see it with the woman CEO that I have now.
Yeah, me as well. The company I work for has a woman CEO, and it's very different. Now, I've been under other companies that had women CEOs, and it was kind of, it felt like she was a woman, but it felt like it was a man that was in charge. So the current one is the same thing. It's very collaborative, and you don't feel stuffed down. Like, I feel like you respect me in my position. You respect me as the leader of what you put me over. And there's not the competition as much. It's the, I know you do what you do, I do what I do. And that's the whole point for us to get to the end goal. Now, the field I work in, it does tend to be a bit female heavy anyway. But I agree. Same thing with the women, it's more human. Did somebody else was about to say something?
I just wanted to go back to what I was saying about being able to balance that strength and that compassion. It can be done. And I think women definitely have a skill at balancing that, balancing that supportive nature along with that ability to be stern when you need to. It's definitely a balance that you have to keep to maintain a good rapport and just maintain a good relationship with anyone.
Yes. And that goes back to what we were talking about last week. Don't let these heels fool you. It's
Right.
we can
do it all.
Yes. If we know how to be what we need to be and know how to adjust when we need to adjust. So y'all, we have about 20 minutes left in this conversation. And on this plan, Pat, can I talk today? On this platform, we have women who have been in charge and are in charge of a lot of different things. I need to know, what are some of the things in our positions and the things that we love? What have we learned that has maybe be able to help someone else who is struggling in their, I'm in charge, but I'm a woman? What have we learned? What can we give them that can help them, that can help us in these positions? We've already said the not compete, not comparing. What else? Is there anything else?
I know for me, it's like managing work and your personal life, like creating a boundary where you don't let everything just run together, like having a strict plan for yourself that you balance your work life and your personal life and really stick to it.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I know in the position that I'm in, it's a woman dominated position. And one thing that I teach those that come into my training space, I teach them a few things. I remind them of who they are, and I tell them to be their authentic selves. So what we don't need is another Jaleesa Hoskins. We don't need another Carlene or Miss Marcia Camille. We need whoever you're supposed to be, whoever you are. That's
Mhm.
who the world or your career, your church, they need. We don't need any carbon copies.
Mhm.
And so first, people have to be reminded, or you have to affirm who they are, remind them of their worth. Once you do that, you have to know your strengths and your weaknesses and perfect that craft. And so we have an acronym. We tell people to be fat, be flexible, be adaptable, and be teachable. And if you're flexible, adaptable, and teachable, wherever you go, you'll be able to sprinkle a little bit of pizzazz everywhere you go because you're able to be flexible, adaptable, and teachable. And I think even as women, when we step in these leadership roles or whatever the position may be, if we remember who we are and as believers, if we remember who we serve and who we were created to be, then we are supposed to change the environment where we go. Society as a whole has been a male dominating world. And so we already have to show up and it's almost as if we have to prove ourselves, but I don't have to step out of character to show you who I am or the ability that I have. And I know Nathan mentioned something about the double threat, and of course, all of us are Black women, so we're dealing with being a woman and being with a Black woman at the same time. And so,
Right.
color racism is real, and sexism is real, and colorism is real.
Mhm.
And even among Black women, I'm of the darker complexion, so I'm fighting a whole nother battle by itself because
Mhm.
they may think the lighter is a little bit better than the darker, right? And
Right.
so constantly I'm telling my trainees like, hey, you don't have to combat stuff that you know isn't true. Just show up.
Mhm.
And so if we show up and we do what we're supposed to do, just stay in your lane, you don't have to worry about it. Just stay in your lane.
Right.
So
Yes. Totally agree. Mommy, now I know you have something. You've been a little quiet this whole episode. I know you got something written down somewhere over there. What say ye?
Well, I don't have anything written down. I was quiet because a lot of what I was going to say, someone else said it. But there's a couple of things. Mostly, it seems a lot of people, men in particular, focus on a woman being disqualified on the sheer fact that she's a woman. We can't
Mhm.
change that. That's not going to change. Two, or that she's emotional. And I'm telling you, if you're a human, male or female, you're emotional. Emotions
Mhm.
are like your happiness, your sadness, your anger. Do women, some women, tend to display that more than others? Yes, I think that has everything to do with personality.
Mhm.
Sometimes character, because I know some men who are as emotional as they say women are. Like if they're talking about something happy or sad, they cry, but they've been taught that crying is a sign of weakness, and they usually try to hide that. When I'm talking to someone, I try to talk or speak to them the way I need to be spoken to.
Mhm.
Me,
Mhm.
I need gentle. They're firm, but gentle. Your tone says a whole lot to me and to other people when you're speaking to them. So that's one way that shows somebody, oh, that you're capable of doing something. If you're in any position where you're constantly trying to prove something, you're already defeating yourself. I've seen it in the
Mhm.
yeah,
comments. Some of us have said,
yeah.
just be yourself. You have to
Mhm.
be who you are. Even the fact that if you're in a leadership position, let's say in church, and you're a pastor or a preacher, a minister or a teacher, because by calling from God, that's where I operate as a teacher, but I've been licensed and ordained. You have to be who God called you to be. That's
Mhm.
confident enough. If you're competing against someone else, you're already robbing yourself of joy.
Yeah.
You're not, and
Yep.
that's
Mhm.
going to project out onto whoever you're talking to, wherever it is that you're trying to lead them. Listening to the conversation, it sounds like for a lot of people, leadership to them just means the boss, which means I can be dogmatic and bossy and
Right.
disrespectful. And that's not that's not a good leader, because you can be a
Mhm.
leader and just not be a good one. If we're all on the same team, there's no competition between us. It shouldn't be. And if it is, I always say to people, win. You already won, because we're trying to get the goal met. We're trying to accomplish the thing. And if it's in church, it's what God has led you to or directed you to. Even if you don't feel like you're qualified or something. If God puts you there, you belong there. And he's going to equip you to do it. Again, a lot of that has to do with personality and character. If you can be submissive, because that comes with the leadership thing as far as it is a husband and a wife. My husband is a pastor, is the pastor at our church. There are times when we do counseling together and it's with women. He prefers that I take the lead because they seem to be more comfortable. They don't have a problem with him being there. They even ask if I could do it with you and pastor, but I would like for you to be there. There have been times people have just asked me, but before I counsel them, I let pastor know, because sometimes it's members of the church, sometimes it's not. And I don't want to usurp authority just because I know I can counsel them without letting him know. And even here's this word is probably gonna have somebody faint. Get his permission to do it so he knows what's going on. I don't have a problem with being submissive to his leadership role like that. And he doesn't have a problem. He's not threatened by me being the one leading in the counseling session. I think a lot of it has to do with personality and characters, why some of us struggle with it as women, and especially with other women. I've been in places where I've worked and my supervisor or the director of the Children's Learning Center was a woman, and personality wise, she was terrible as a leader. She was terrible because she was timid and she tried to please everybody. You can't do that. You have to do what is right. If you have rules and regulations, protocol and procedure, you have to follow that. You can't change it for your hand-picked friends because other people are watching. I've also had men who were supervisors over me and they were terrible. They were the type where I don't even want to go talk to them because they're very condescending. You could tell that they were very egotistical and chauvinistic. And sometimes it took me to have to say, you know, that comment was very chauvinistic. Oh, I was just joking. Or I said, but a joke is funny. That wasn't funny. It's people's personality and their character sometimes will determine the type of leader that you are. Again, I'm married. I have children. Jaleesa is one of them. I've done both. I've been a stay-at-home mom and I've worked. I balanced mostly in the house because my husband had to leave and things before we even got out the door, before everybody else was gone. So I was the primary caregiver in a certain amount of hours. He didn't have a problem with that. I didn't have a problem with it. And certain things he seen, I was better at doing it because I did it more often. So he let me do it. Or if he was going to be there, if the roles switched, I showed him overall, like in general, what we did, how the routine was, but tailored to how it works for you and that day without feeling threatened that my husband was now doing the role that I once was, or vice versa. It can be done. It can be done well without one feeling like they need to demean or dismiss, discredit, or disrespect the other person in leadership. It can be done. It can be done in love.
See, I told y'all she had something
to say. She had a lot to say.
She went off.
I think what we talked about earlier was when you're in leadership, what is your intention? Is it to control or is it to lead? Because every good leader also knows how to follow. Also, like Tamika said, knows how to be taught as well. So I feel like being a good leader, you have to also be flexible, adaptable, and teachable, like she said, because it should be a collaborative effort. The leader should not be in a controlling position, because then what's the goal? And is it being met? Because there's a different way to, sometimes get to the same destination.
And also, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Also, you have, for me, I've learned over the years, I lead by example. I'm not going to, I can't put on you, expect something of you that I will not expect of myself, and vice versa. Because when you lead, you have people that are looking up to you, just like, a mother, their children look up to them. We are our children's hero when they're young and impressionable, so when you lead, for me, when I lead by example, I'm not going to expect anyone under my leadership more so expect something more of them than I expect of myself. I have to lead by example. And then as I'm leading by example, they learning from me, because guess what? I had to learn something from somebody else as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, as a leader, we should never forget that. We had to learn something from someone else. That's what made us who we are today, because we learned from someone, be it our husbands, be it our parents, be it our grandmother, or or even our sons and our daughters. Now that they are adults, we can learn from them too. So leading by example, that's just, that's my
Yes.
thoughts.
Yes. I would even add, I saw, as far as what I've learned in leadership, I view it kind of how a pack of wolves. In a pack of wolves, the leader is not in the front. The leader is behind all the other wolves. So they're not leading from the front, they're leading from the back. And from the back, they're pushing them forward, but also they can see everything that's going on ahead. Because as a good leader, you really need the assistance of the Holy Spirit. Like, let's stop acting like we can just do this in and of our own intelligence, our own education, you need the assistance of the Holy Spirit to know the people that you're leading, the situations that you're going into, so that you can see far ahead. Because sometimes you're going to have those that you're leading that think they know better and think they know more, but they can't see what you see. That's why you're in that position.
That's good. Yeah.
Very true.
For me, I feel like the most success that I've had is when I led with empathy. Just really met people on their level and humanized them and kind of understood, like, well, what is going on at home, or why do they react the way that they do? When I led with empathy, I was able to lead in a way that they could receive without them really even knowing. And they appreciated my leadership because I kind of met them where they were, because maybe they were having a hard day, or maybe something was going on at home, or this or that. But like, for me, leading with empathy, even with handling being young and being a leader under people who are more seasoned than I, that can also have its own challenges. But in that, letting them know I'm not trying to be your boss, but if I'm in this role, I'm in this role. But leading with that empathy of understanding where they're coming from and where they're at in life, and has just helped.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, as being the clinical social worker and just the therapist, what do we do when we feel overwhelmed in these roles? I know for me, I lean on the support system. I mean, I call people crying all the time sometimes sometimes it does get overwhelming. And sometimes when you try to create that balance, it's difficult. So having a good support system, I mean, I like to travel. Sometimes I just like to get up and go and just, unplug myself from all the responsibilities that a leader has to go through sometimes. I'm just curious to see what others do. As far as how do they manage those leadership roles as women.
I call the co-founder, my younger brother. He receives lots of voicemails from me, or like voice notes like, oh my goodness, let me tell you what happened today. Or talk to my mom, but I like to take a good trip as well. Or I do shut people out completely, because sometimes I need to live in Erica land for a little bit. And Erica land doesn't need the outside interruption, so that I can reconnect and recharge, because I deal with people every day.
Yeah. Same.
Me too. Support system. Talking to other people, or sometime I go to the land of Nopeville.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna
take that one. I gotta tell that one. Nopeville. That's right there today.
I am gonna have to use that. Go to the land of Nopeville.
I think I might reside there for a little while.
Right?
I think
for me, I just have that's what I call, when you feel overwhelmed, I call that you're having a human moment. Because sometimes, we are Wonder Woman and we can do it all, and and all that. And so, and I've told ladies, you want to be Wonder Woman. I wonder what you gonna do when you fall apart. That's what I want. Okay, so, but it's called a human moment. And when I have a human moment, wearing the many hats that I have to wear, and the many hats that you ladies have to wear, we have to wear. Sometimes, we got to take that human moment, because if you don't take that human moment, you are going to blow up.
Yeah.
And somebody's gonna catch it, and it may not be. It's gonna be directed in the wrong way. So have a human moment. You feel overwhelmed. Yep, you got to take that step back. If you can't take a step back, take a step aside. Okay, and go somewhere and sit down and regroup. Because if we constantly keep going, we're going to fall apart. And guess what? We find, you wonder why, and I don't know if any of you ladies have ever felt this, but you wonder why you feel sick. You wonder why you got a headache. You wonder why you feel like you got to vomit. You wonder why, you feel all these things. Why am I achy? Why is my body aching? It is because you are overwhelmed. You need to go somewhere, sit down and regroup. Clear your mind, because we don't clear our mind and we keep going, we're not effective.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not effective. We're going to affect somebody in the wrong way.
That's so true. Self-care is so important. Tiffany, she said leaders get overwhelmed because the church doesn't talk about self-care. I wouldn't even say just church. Sometimes society and us as Black women, sometimes we kind of came up that it's just you go, you do it, you keep going, you pray, you go. And I'm not knocking prayer. Prayer does work. But there are sometimes where you need something else. You need a little more. We need to take the reins over our own healing, the reins over our own sanity. Sometimes it's like it's stealing away. Let's go do something else. Not today. Or it's self-care. It's very, very, very important. Y'all, I can't believe this. We only got a minute and some change left, and I've seen a whole lot of comments, and I'm trying to get to them. I've seen somebody here from Winston-Salem. I see Richmond, Virginia. I see Louisville, Kentucky. Shout out to Miss Edna, who is listening on the actual radio station, saying that she enjoyed this conversation. And also a Naya, who is listening from East Orange. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Y'all, while we have y'all here, if you enjoyed this conversation, put it in the comments. Let me see something. I enjoyed it. A thumbs up, a fire. I need to see it. Come on. Did you enjoy this conversation?
Give us the hearts. Give us the hearts.
Got my Mark Moore on today.
Give me the hearts.
Let's get the hearts. Let's get the likes.
We're not going to charge y'all for this good conversation.
But feel free to donate. We ain't charging you. But feel
However,
free.
if the Lord lay it on your heart, we'll take the ball.
Yes. Let me see. Great conversation. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, Pastor Founder. That's right. I see the heart.
Your question, but we kind of answered it. So, because Pastor Hamid, he'll be dropping in with these long, lengthy questions that we need. We need to study, sir. Come on, can we do our research first? Thank you.
Come on.
They enjoyed the conversation. Yes, thank you so much, y'all. Now, as we said before, we're not charging you for this. This is free. But if ever so that the Lord lays on your heart to want to donate, we have multiple ways that you can donate to Sound Gospel Radio. We have Cash App, we have Zelle, PayPal, the mail. You can donate. I'm trying to find the thing.
In the bird.
There you go. Praise the Lord. There you go. Zelle, Cash App, the mail, Sound Gospel Radio. If you want to become an executive partner, you can find all that you need is in the Word of God, but it's also on soundgospelradio.com. You have any questions, you want to join our mailing list, you want to become a partner, how do we listen? You go to soundgospelradio.com and you will find all the information you need there. We do have merchandise. Thank you so much, Camille. You can find merchandise. We have t-shirts, we have hoodies, tambourines. Just go visit the website, y'all. It ain't gonna hurt you. It's not spam. You're not gonna get locked in. It's just a website, y'all. Just go visit it and you will find all that you need about Sound Gospel Radio there. This was a wonderful conversation. We want to thank you so much. And thank you to Overseer Alicia Oatman Gatson for joining us this evening. I really enjoyed this conversation. And as always here, what are we doing, y'all? We are building hope.
Building hope.
We are transforming lives 24/7. We're right here at Sound Gospel Radio. Take care, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Building hope. Transforming lives 24/7. Sound Gospel Radio.